A millionaire encounters his ex-housekeeper with a young woman who holds a secret about him. The bustling café was alive with the scent of rich coffee and freshly baked pastries. Laughter and chatter danced in the air, but amid the chaos, one figure stood apart, a tall man with a sharp suit and icy blue eyes that once charmed the world. Jonathan Hawthorne, a billionaire industrialist, was as imposing as ever. He scoured the crowd with a tense gaze, his heart racing, not from the coffee he'd just gulped down, but from a feeling he couldn't quite shake. As he took a cautious sip, fate played a cruel trick on him. Just then, he saw her. Elena, his former housekeeper, was sitting at a corner table with a little girl. The sound around him faded, the vivid colors of the cafe blurring into the background. The girl was impossibly cute, with curly hair framing a round face and bright eyes that sparkled with mischief. But it was her smile, a mirror of his own from years ago, that clenched Jonathan's heart in a vice. His throat tightened. How could this be? Had she come to expose him? Elena looked up, her expression morphing from casual chatter to shock as their eyes met. Pulling Jonathan's thoughts into a spiraling chaos, he approached, each step heavy with uncertainty. "Elena," his voice wavered. "Mr. Hawthorne," she replied, a mix of warmth and caution. It pierced through the years of silence that lay between them. The girl, Mia, turned to Jonathan, her innocent curiosity palpable. "Mom, is he who I think he is?" The question hung heavily in the air. Jonathan's stomach dropped. "Where did you get that from?" Elena's eyes darted nervously, protectively. Mia blurted something that hit Jonathan like a freight train. "I heard some things about you, things that I think everyone should know." A child's honesty, so simple yet explosive, echoed between them. Jonathan's mind raced. How much did she know about his hidden past, the shadowy secrets lurking behind the glittering facade of his empire? He felt the walls closing in, and suddenly the cafe felt small, as if it were swallowing him whole. Elena's eyes darkened as worry crept into her voice. "Mia, not now." But her unease couldn't mask her past affection for Jonathan. The bystanders hushed, whispers cascading through the room. "Is that him? The billionaire? I heard he's ruthless." Jonathan could feel their judgment like daggers, pricking at old wounds buried under layers of success and denial. The pressure was palpable, almost suffocating, as he battled the rising wave of anxiety. What would happen if the truth came out? Did Mia's secret threaten everything he built? Caught between the truth that could unravel his world and a pull towards the woman he once thought he'd left behind, Jonathan's mind spiraled into turmoil. Would he confront the past or smother it, risking everything? He looked at Elena, her face a study in pain and uncertainty. "What do you mean, things?" he asked, voice low. In that charged moment, time seemed to stand still, everyone waiting for the next revelation. Unanswered questions loomed heavy above. Could this child be the key to something more than a dark past? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. Well, and since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jonathan held his breath, waiting for Elena to respond. The atmosphere shifted, charged with unspoken words and heavy stares from the curious onlookers. "What do you mean?" "Things?" He pressed again, his heart thudding loudly in his chest, each beat echoing his dread. Elena's gaze faltered, filled with a mix of fear and defiance. "Mia, sweetheart, not now." Her voice trembled, but the little girl's curiosity tugged at the truth like a stubborn knot. Refusing to be ignored, but before she could speak, the cafe doors swung open with a loud bang, interrupting them. A gust of cold air swept through, sending shivers down Jonathan's spine. A figure strode in, wrapped in a leather jacket, their face hidden beneath a dark hood. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward the newcomer. The air felt electric, charged with suspense. "Jonathan Hawthorne," the figure yelled, ripping the hood back. The familiar face of Max Ryder, Jonathan's old business partner, made pulse quicken. But it was the look in Max's eyes that sent alarm bells ringing in Jonathan's mind. Rage, desperation, and something deeper, something darker. Max pointed a finger, his voice shaking with emotion. "You think you can hide from your past? You think you can just walk away?" Jonathan recoiled, his stomach twisting. "What are you talking about, Max?" The room swirled, confusion and fear bubbling to the surface. Mia clutched Elena's hand, her eyes wide, confusion mixing with fright. The whispers resumed, taut with tension. "Is that him? I thought he was untouchable." "Your little empire isn't built on truth, Jonathan," Max sneered, taking a confident step closer. "And I'm here to expose it." He reached into his pocket. And in that moment, Jonathan's heart raced faster than he thought possible. What would he pull out? A gun? A knife? But when Max revealed a flash drive instead, the tension shifted. Gasps rose up like bubbles, and the scent of danger filled the air. "This proves everything." "Everything?" Jonathan pushed, incredulous, but his voice cracked. "I know about the deal you made with those corrupt officials." Max paused dramatically, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You sold out your own father to climb the ranks. You can't pretend to be a good man anymore." Betrayal hit like ice water. It froze Jonathan in place, peeling away layers of arrogance and success. The onlookers exchanged shocked glances, their whispers growing louder. "I heard he had family troubles." "No way." Elena's face went pale, eyes darting between Jonathan and Max. "You're lying," she blurted out, but uncertainty crept into her voice. "Am I?" Max shot back, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "The truth always finds a way." He raised the flash drive. In the air, a trophy of unspeakable horrors. Mia's innocent voice broke the charged silence. "Is it true, Mr. Hawthorne?" Jonathan felt the walls of his carefully constructed world crumbling. His past, a monster he had hidden away, was finally clawing its way back into the light. "No," he shouted. But it felt weak, a hollow echo in the storm of realizations crashing around him. Elena's hands trembled as she withdrew slightly. "Jonathan, what's happening?" At that moment, the cafe door slammed open again, but this time it was a woman. Her eyes were fierce, and she rushed forward shouting, "Stop! You can't let this happen!" Jonathan's heart sank as he recognized her. It was Clara, his estranged sister. The secrets were alive now, spiraling into chaos, unraveling everything. The truth was about to explode, and Jonathan had no idea what would follow. The room held its breath, the past clawing back, and Jonathan felt the weight of all he had lost stinging at his core. Would the truth be his salvation or his end? The question lingered like an impending storm waiting to break. Clara stormed in, eyes fierce and blazing like a wildfire. A powerful presence slicing through the tension like a knife. "Stop. You can't let this happen." The murmurs in the cafe fell into a stunned silence. Everyone turned to her. Jonathan's heart hammered against his ribs. Clara, once a sister he thought he lost, now stood before him, and he didn't know if her arrival was a lifeline or a noose. "What do you mean?" Jonathan called out, desperation creeping into his voice, his gaze darting between Max and Clara. "I've held this back for too long." Clara's voice broke like glass. "You all need to know the truth." Mia, still clinging to Elena, tilted her head, confusion washing over her face. "What truth, Miss Clara?" The accusation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jonathan felt the weight of the world pressing in on him. He took a shaky breath, his mind racing. What could Clara possibly say that could change everything? Max smirked, reveling in the chaos. "This should be good," he taunted, feeding off the energy of the crowd, amplifying the dread that thickened the air. "No, wait," Jonathan shouted, panic rising. "Clara." "Don't?" Uh-oh. But Clara had already stepped forward, the thunderous weight of her presence commanding attention. "You all think you know Jonathan Hawthorne, the self-made man, The hero of his own story? She paused, taking a moment, her eyes narrowing as if peering straight through the facade Jonathan had crafted. But he's hiding a monster. Gasps erupted. The crowd whispered, exchanging glances filled with skepticism and curiosity, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. No, Jonathan snapped, but he felt his voice tremble. He knew the whispers would only gain momentum from her words. This isn't the time. But Clara pressed on. The truth is, our family isn't what you think. She glanced at Jonathan, her eyes fierce, but soft with something he couldn't decipher. Betrayal? Regret? Jonathan is not the only one with secrets. Max's grin widened, taking her cue. Oh, this is rich. What else? Is he adopted? Was he a criminal before the fame? Jonathan's blood ran cold. Clara, stop. His voice was a strangled plea. He couldn't breathe. The walls seemed to close in, squeezing his chest tight. Your mother. Clara choked out, her eyes glassy. She wasn't the woman you thought she was. She was involved in illegal operations. The very ones, Jonathan, that led you to betray your father. A collective gasp rippled through the café. Jonathan faltered, struggling against the rapid torrent of this new reality. He felt the ground beneath him shake. No, she couldn't have. Your father wasn't the innocent victim you painted him to be. Clara shouted, anguish etched on her face. There were deals, blood money. Mom was trying to shield you from it all. Keep you safe. That's why she wanted you out of it. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide, while Mia looked back and forth between the adults, confusion morphing into fear. I trusted you. Jonathan's voice was a guttural sound now, raw and angry. You didn't say anything. Because I didn't know how to, Clara cried. Until now. Until the truth threatens to swallow you whole. The atmosphere shifted again. A mix of shocked faces stared back at Jonathan, and the weight of betrayal felt suffocating. He looked around at the sea of eyes, all filled with disbelief. And in that moment he wondered, which was the real betrayal? The past creeping back like darkness, or the people who claimed to care for him? Mia shouted, Are we all in danger? Mom, she pleaded, terrified. Jonathan's heart sank further, but within all that dread, a seed of realization blossomed. He hadn't just built an empire on lies. He was standing on a cracked foundation of his family's truths, and the storm was just beginning. Suddenly, an explosion rang out. The cafe windows blew in, scattering glass and sending the crowd into a panic. Jonathan's world tilted. 1 second, a confrontation, and the next, utter chaos. What was that? Someone screamed. Amid the chaos, Jonathan's gaze darted to Clara, who now looked terrified but resolute. They're coming for you, Jonathan. They know, she shouted above the din. He turned to find Max slipping away in the commotion, a shadow disappearing into the night, leaving behind a whirlwind of questions. Jonathan stood there breathless and bewildered, caught between surviving the nightmare his life had become and the truth that was unraveling around him. What did it all mean? And more importantly, what would he have to pay to keep the storm at bay? Shadows lurked, ready to consume everything he had built. Chaos erupted. A blast of hot air rushed through the cafe, mixing with the sharp smell of coffee and fear. Jonathan stumbled back, eyes wide, heart pounding wildly against his chest. Glass shards rained down, sparkling like deadly confetti as screams filled the air. Get down, he shouted, instinct taking over. He grabbed Elena's arm, pulling her close. But Mia, sweet innocent Mia, stood frozen, clutching her mother's hand, wide-eyed with confusion. Mom, she cried, get her away. Jonathan yelled, frantic as he scanned the room. Clara's voice pierced through the mayhem. Into the back, now! That fierce authority melted Jonathan's tension for a split second. This was the sister he thought he'd lost, a warrior in a world of shadows. But then another crash, this time from the cafe's entrance. Wood splintered. A group of masked figures stormed inside, weapons glinting. Everyone on the ground, one of them shouted, voice harsh and commanding. Fear gripped Jonathan's gut, squeezing tight. Go! He thrust Elena and Mia towards the kitchen as he grabbed Clara. We have to move. Now! They dashed behind the counter. The sound of chaos echoing behind them. Metal scraping, footsteps pounding, shouts mingling with fear and confusion. Jonathan's heart raced faster than he thought possible. Clara's face was pale, but determination shone in her eyes. "Where's Max?" she asked, voice cutting through the panic. "We can't worry about him," Jonathan snapped. "He may have set this up." But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Could Max have foreseen this? It felt wrong. No. Clara's voice trembled, coming back to life with every word. "This is bigger. It's not just Max. It's about your past, Jonathan. We can't talk about this now," he urged, shaking his head as if to scatter her words like the glass on the floor. But Clara pressed on, her fear morphing into desperate determination. "They're here for you. You have to know the truth." Just then, the kitchen door swung open. Jonathan turned, ready to fight. But the figure that stepped in left him paralyzed. It was his father. The man he'd thought was gone from his life for good, walking in like a ghost from a past he thought he'd buried. "Dad?" Jonathan whispered, disbelief clawing at his throat. The man looked older, worn, but there he was, alive. Jonathan felt the air shift. "What are you doing here?" "I'm saving you, Jonathan," his father growled. "But you need to let me explain. You have no idea what's going on." The masked figures were closing in, their voices loud and shielded by adrenaline. They didn't care who he was. All they saw was a threat. Jonathan's heart raced. The past was crashing down all around him, and the truth was hiding in plain sight. "Why should I believe you?" Jonathan shouted, every ounce of anger exposed. "You left me. You disappeared." "Because I had to," his father shouted back, desperation cracking his voice. "They were coming after our family. Your mother knew. She wanted to protect you." "Protect me?" A laugh slipped out, bitter and harsh. "By selling me out?" Mia's small hand squeezed Jonathan's, grounding him, but the chaos narrowed down to just him and the father he thought was a stranger. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the cafe again, sending another wave of panic through the room. People screamed and surged, but Jonathan remained fixed in place, the fury and fear creating a whirlwind around him. He didn't know what to believe anymore. "Dad, what could Mom do?" Jonathan was gasping between breaths. The truth was slipping through his fingers like sand. "Everything," his father cried, eyes wild. "They're not just here for you. They're here for her too. You have to make a choice, Jonathan, now." And just as Jonathan took a step forward, another unexpected figure barged in, a woman he recognized from a past that felt like a dream. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the din. The crowd remained restless as her silhouette emerged. A memory turned reality. It was Emily, the childhood friend he had lost touch with, the girl who knew all his secrets. Tears brimmed in her eyes, and disappointment etched her features. "You don't even know, do you?" she whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. Jonathan's world tilted again. "Know what?" he asked, his heart thudding as he sought answers amid the chaos. "About Mia," she murmured. Jonathan's breath hitched. The little girl, so innocent, felt like a fragment of his past coming back to haunt him. "What do you mean?" he pleaded, the urgency clawing at him. And as the chaos roared around them, Emily stepped closer. "She isn't just Elena's daughter. She's yours, Jonathan." A shockwave hit him like a freight train. The world shattered, the truth looming large and overwhelming. Panic swept through him as thoughts collided. How could he have missed it? What did this mean? Everything he had built swirled away, a confusing fog of betrayal and shock. "Is it true?" he choked out, losing himself in the aftermath of those words. The cafe held its breath. Would the truth shatter him completely? Or was there a flicker of hope amongst the wreckage? As silence cloaked the room, Jonathan felt the weight of every moment, and the question loomed. How much more of his life had been a lie? Chaos swirled around Jonathan like a tempest, glass shards glittering like stars fallen from the sky. His breath was shallow, his skin cold. Emily's revelation hung in the air, heavy and sharp. "She's yours, Jonathan." The cafe felt electric, every eye on him, waiting for his response. "Is it true?" His voice shook, barely. Above a whisper, desperation clawing at his throat. Mia stood frozen, confusion written across her small face. Before he could process the enormity of her words, the masked figures advanced, closing the distance with calculated precision, their shouts drowning out the rising panic. "Everyone on the ground," a voice barked again, harsh and demanding. Jonathan's instincts kicked in. "Get behind the counter." He pushed Elena and Mia to the safety of the kitchen area, heart racing. Clara was already shoving boxes and crates to block the door, fear etched in her features. But the moment his father reached for him, Jonathan pulled away. "Don't touch me." The last vestiges of trust shattered like the windows. All he had known felt tainted. His father was an enigma, layers of deception, lurking beneath a nominal love. "Jonathan, listen to me," his father called out, voice frantic. "We can't let them take you." "Who are they?" Jonathan shouted, his head spinning. He couldn't think straight, the chaos tightening around him like a vice. But just then, a loud noise erupted from the back, drowning out his father's plea. A figure burst through the door opposite them, a silhouette in dark clothing, but this time, it was not a threat. It was another face from his past, Tara, a family friend who had always somehow been there. Her eyes burned with urgency. "Jonathan," she yelled, rushing toward him, shoving something into his hand, a small device. "You need to activate this." "What? Why?" Disbelief clouded his mind. He didn't even know how to react to her. Memories rushed back of childish summers filled with laughter. "You shouldn't be here. There's no time, just trust me." Her expression was frantic, and Jonathan felt the pulse of panic beating in every corner of the café. More explosions echoed outside, reverberating through the building. The masked figures shouted orders, their bodies tense, ready to take control. Emily clung close, fear in her eyes as she pulled Mia under the counter. Jonathan felt a flash of protectiveness. "No," he roared, leaning into Tara, trying to comprehend. "What's happening? What do you know?" Tara locked eyes with him, and in that instant, the world around them faded. "They're coming for your legacy, Jonathan. It's not just about you. It's about everything your family built. They know your past, and they'll reveal it unless you act fast." "What do you mean?" The weight of her words crashed over him. A feeling of desperation mixed with urgency pierced his heart. And then everything shifted. Just as Jonathan prepared to activate the device, an ear-splitting crash came from the cafe's entrance. The door burst open, sending the already panicked crowd into a frenzy. But it was not the masked figures who stepped through. It was someone he never expected to see, his mother. But not the mother he had pictured. A loving face, arms open wide. No, this woman radiated coldness, an aura that felt foreign and dangerous. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair unkempt, she stood there like a ghost, an embodiment of secrets wrapped in shadows. "Jonathan, you need to listen to me," she said, voice steady but strained. "Everything you know is a lie." The room seemed to hold its breath. His heart thundered as he felt his world tilt again. "What are you doing here? I didn't want you to find out this way," she interrupted, and for a moment, the fear in her eyes seemed starkly real. "But you're not safe. They want to erase you. The truth must stay buried." Jonathan's mind reeled. How many layers of deception lay between him and reality? Were they all puppets in a game he had never known he was playing? The urgency rose, swirling around them, and time felt fleeting. "Mom," his voice trembled. "What have you done?" The cafe erupted into shouts and confusion again. The masked figures advanced. But now everything felt shifted, questions coursing through Jonathan's mind like wildfire. Who could he trust? What was truth anymore? Before he could find the answers, the ceiling trembled, and a sharp crack overwhelmed all sound, shaking the very foundations beneath them. A heavy rumble echoed, and then darkness enveloped like a thick fog, a foreshadowing of a storm ready to unleash. With a thundering heart, Jonathan felt a pull to a truth he never thought possible, a reality that could unravel everything. Who was he really? And what sacrifices lay ahead to survive the tempest that was his life? The room shook with chaos, the air thick with dust and panic. Glass crunched underfoot as Jonathan struggled to process his mother's arrival. "You need to listen to me," she cried, her eyes wild, desperate. A powerful tremor awaited as chaos twisted into a frenzied nightmare. Shadows closed in from every angle, masked figures drawing nearer, ready to seize control. Jonathan's heart raced. "What are you talking about?" The words felt frantic, slipping through his fingers like the glass. But before his mother could respond, Emily stepped forward, grabbing Jonathan's arm. "You need to activate the device," she said, her brow furrowed with urgency. "What device?" Jonathan yelled, trying to focus. Tara lingered beside him, panic mirrored in her eyes, while outside sirens screamed like banshees against the distant night. His mother clasped his hands tightly. "This isn't just about you. There are people here who want to destroy us all because of the secrets." Each word tumbled out in a rush, thick with fear. Then another explosion rocked the café, not from outside, but from the far left corner of the room. It was deafening, a vicious burst that sent limbs flying and bodies tumbling as a dust cloud engulfed the scene. The crowd erupted into a panic, screams rising to a pitch. "Down!" Jonathan shouted, instinctively shielding his mother and the others as he ducked low. The ground beneath them trembled, shards of plaster raining down. The masked figures were thrown off balance, but they soon regained their footing, eyes flashing with fury. "Mia!" Elena screamed, looking for her daughter. "Get to the back." Jonathan's gaze snapped past the chaos, locking on to the little girl who had been forgotten. There she was, huddling beneath the counter, eyes wide, terrified. He couldn't breathe. "I'll get her," he shouted, tearing away from the group. The room swirled as he dashed toward her, chaos echoing in his ears. Just as he reached her, a flash of light burst from the device in Emily's hand, illuminating the café. It exploded with energy, the power coursing through the air, lifting Jonathan from the ground momentarily. Everything froze, the masked figures, his mother, even the trembling floorboards. And then, the light collapsed around him, and everything shifted. The figures who had threatened them shattered like glass, revealing ordinary bystanders caught in the chaos. Faces morphed, the masked men turned into friends, family, people he had come to know. They had all been actors. "What is happening?" Jonathan gasped, his voice trembling, his chest tight. Surprise, a cheerful voice rang out from the shadows. It was Max, now unmasked, a grin splitting his face. "You didn't really think this was all real, did you? It's a setup, a game." Jonathan staggered back, confusion flooding through him. "What do you mean? What game?" "You've been part of something larger," Max said, stepping forward, every word oozing with amusement. "A social experiment designed to test your truth. And guess what? You failed spectacularly." Before Jonathan could process this new reality, Clara stepped forward. "What? You were in on this too?" Her voice shook with outrage. Max shrugged with a smug expression. "We needed to see how you would react under pressure, how far you'd go to protect your secrets. But the truth? It's a bit more complicated." "Complicated," Jonathan echoed, breathless. "What are you saying?" Mia, still pale with shock, gazed up at him, confusion written all over her face. "Isn't it a game, Daddy?" "Daddy." The word hit like a punch to the gut. The world spun again, and Jonathan felt the ground beneath him slip away. "Guess you'll need to figure that one out," Max grinned. The chaos fading into laughter. As Jonathan turned to look for his mother, she was gone, and so was Tara. The café felt empty, the energy replaced by an unsettling silence. How much of this was real? He whispered, mind racing. But it didn't matter now. The only truth he had left was a looming question. Who was he, and how deep did the web of lies run? The laughter echoed darkly, and Jonathan knew one thing. The game was far from over. Jonathan's mind whirled, caught in a storm of confusion and shock. The game? A setup? Max's laughter echoed in his mind, taunting him as the reality of his life distorted into something almost unrecognizable. "You failed spectacularly." That line pierced through his thoughts, igniting anger and desperation. But suddenly, the cafe's chaos fell quiet. Everyone, masked figures, family, friends, seemed frozen, eyes glued to Jonathan. An electric tension filled the air, as if the world was waiting for something monumental. "What's going on?" he shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "What game?" Emily stepped closer, her face pale, lips trembling. "It was meant to expose the truth, Jonathan. Your mother, she's not who you think she is." As those words hung in the air like smoke, Jonathan felt a chill creep up his spine. "What are you saying?" His heart raced. He glanced around, the faces of onlookers morphing into expressions of shock, disbelief. "Everything you thought you knew, it's all part of her manipulation," Emily continued, urgency creeping into her voice. "The secrets, the lies, she orchestrated it all." "No," Jonathan gasped, his stomach rolling at the thought. The idea of his mother being involved in this twisted nightmare, pulling strings from behind the scenes, felt like a punch to the gut. Could this be true? But before he could process it, another loud crash echoed, shaking the walls. Jonathan's gaze turned toward the source, an open door leading to a storage room flooded with shadows. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, tall and commanding, cloaked in a long coat. Jonathan's breath hitched in his throat as the figure stepped into the light, revealing a striking resemblance to him. The same icy blue eyes, the same sharp jawline. "Dad?" Jonathan's voice cracked, shock erupting in waves. "What are you doing here?" "Jonathan," the man's tone was heavy with regret, filled with anguish. "You need to understand the truth about your mother runs deeper than you can imagine. She's been playing a long game." "Shut up," Jonathan yelled, anger erupting like fire. "You left me. You abandoned us." But the figure didn't flinch. "I tried to protect you from her. I had to cut ties to keep you safe." His eyes bore into Jonathan with fierce intensity. "You think throwing a party and revealing half-truths is manipulation? You have no idea what she's capable of." Max, visibly confused, sneered. "This is getting old. Are we going to play family reunion, or what?" But then it hit like a tidal wave. Another figure burst through the door leading outside. This one was small but fierce, darting past coffee tables and shattered chairs. It was Mia, eyes wide and terrified, holding a device that flickered ominously in her hands. "Daddy," she screamed. "Look out!" Jonathan turned just in time to see movement from the masked figures. The air felt charged. Every sensor in his body screamed danger. But moments later, the room erupted in a blinding flash. Light poured from Mia's device, engulfing everything it touched. The world went white for a heartbeat, and when it faded away, everything changed. The cafe had vanished. They were now in a dark room filled with screens, each displaying footage of the cafe, faces, emotions, secrets, and at the center of it, a panel enclosed with two seats that looked all too familiar. "What is this?" Jonathan gasped, looking around as the reality of their situation dawned. "He's been watching us," his father murmured, voice strained. "This is a testing ground, for us." The realization sank deep. The man who once had control now stood before him, the puppet master of their fates, and Mia was gripping a control they didn't understand. But then, with piercing clarity, the screens flickered and Jonathan's world shattered again. On one of those screens, a younger version of himself appeared, showing moments he had locked away, trembling on the edge between boyhood and manhood. But then his gaze froze, blood draining from his face. On the screen, there was a signature, his mother's, a document, one that tied his entire life to a web of deceit, betrayal, and a plan so intricate that it sent tremors through his soul. Everyone held their breath. What did she do? Mia stepped closer, her young face looked old with worry. "Daddy, what's happening?" And in that moment, Jonathan realized, this was no longer about just him. It was about a legacy built on lies that could consume them all. Would he play her game or rewrite the rules? As questions swirled around him, one stood out above the rest. Could the truth set him free, or was it already too late? The lights from the screens flickered ominously, reflecting the tension etched across every face in the room. Jonathan's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "What did she do?" he demanded, voice cracking with confusion. The revelation about his mother's involvement sat heavily on him, but the truth felt just out of reach. Mia clutched the device, her tiny hands trembling. "Daddy, what's happening?" Her wide eyes searched his face, and Jonathan wanted nothing more than to reassure her. But the chaos around them screamed danger. A smile twisted Max's lips, mocking. "You really thought your life was just a family drama full of secrets? No, Jonathan. It's much bigger. It's a carefully designed experiment." His gaze darted to the screens, almost gleeful in the show unfolding. Jonathan clenched his fists, fury rising. "Stop playing games. What do you mean?" The smile faded. Max's voice lowered to a chilling whisper. "You have to understand. Your mother. She's not who you think she is. She's been using you, like a pawn in her game." At those words, the air thickened. Jonathan shot a glance at the screens, now cycling through images of his life. Family photos, moments of happiness. His eye. Clara stepped forward, eyes blazing. "You're lying." "Am I?" Max replied, a taunting edge creeping into his voice. "It's only a matter of time before you find out the truth. Your mother was never just a housewife." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed. The locked door burst open with a metallic clamor. The sudden noise sent everyone flinching, eyes darting to the entrance. "Jonathan," a voice rang out, now frantic, familiar. It was Elena, skin pale, her resolve crumbling under the weight of fear. "They found us. We need to go." Before Jonathan could respond, a piercing scream echoed from outside. The door rattled violently, thrashing against the wall. Jonathan's heart plummeted. What had just begun as a family confrontation spiraled fast into a nightmare. Another loud crash sounded as the door slammed against the wall, and the masked figures charged in, taking the scene from tense to explosive. Jonathan grabbed Mia, his heart pounding. "We have to get out, now." But just as he turned, the shimmering lights of the screens flickered again. An unexpected figure emerged, stepping out of the shadows. "Stop!" His eyes widened as the face became clearer. It was an older man, rugged and worn, but unmistakable. "Dad?" Jonathan's mind swam with possibilities. He had thought his father was gone, lost in the wreckage of their family. But there he was, tangling back into the chaos. "What are you doing here?" "Jonathan, you need to listen." His father's voice was urgent, laced with a kind of sorrow Jonathan had never understood. "You're not just a pawn. Your mother designed the entire game for leverage against me." "What?" The word fell from his lips, a whisper barely catching the air. Jonathan staggered back. His whole life was built on the foundation of the lies his mother had crafted. But the real twist came next. A tremor rattled the ground beneath them. Just then, the screens burst into a blinding light, and Jonathan shielded his eyes. An echoing sound pulsed through the room, making the very walls shudder. "Mia!" Jonathan shouted, panic lacing his voice. "Get down!" But then, the walls cracked like thunder. The room splintered apart, revealing blinding white light. Jonathan felt the ground shift, and in an instant, everything morphed. The next moment, the reality distorted, collapsing around them, like a collapsing dreamscape. Jonathan blinked hard, trying to register what was happening, when suddenly everything changed. They weren't in the cafe anymore. The group found themselves in a sterile white room filled with machinery, cameras spinning around them as if they were part of a live broadcast. "What the hell?" Jonathan gasped, a sinking dread pooling in his stomach. The machines buzzed ominously, calculations and data racing across the screens. "Welcome to reality, Jonathan," came a cold, mechanical voice from the shadows. A figure stepped out, familiar yet alien. It was a duplicate of Jonathan down to every detail, eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. "Who? What?" Jonathan stammered, the world spinning. The other Jonathan smiled eerily, tilting his head as if savoring the unfolding drama. "I'm you, your true self. The part you didn't know existed," it declared, and Jonathan's mind became a whirlwind of confusion and horror. Every secret, every lie, every pain flooded back, leaving him gasping for a truth in this chaos. As everything began to spiral, Jonathan realized this was all bigger than he had imagined. His life wasn't just a game, it was a construct, a plot designed to unravel everything he believed. Secrets ran deeper than blood, and now he was standing at the edge of something unfathomable. "Who are you really?" Jonathan whispered, facing the unsettling reflection of himself. And the laughter echoed, a chilling reminder of the storm he had yet to confront. Jonathan stared at the doppelganger, his heart racing. "You're me?" The words foreign even as they left his lips. The copy's eyes gleamed, a cruel imitation of his own. "Not just you," the figure said, stepping forward. "I'm everything you've hidden away. The truth you refuse to face." "What truth?" Jonathan's voice was a whispered scream. The machines hummed ominously, a backdrop to the calamity thrumming between them. But before he could process anything, a high-pitched alert rang through the room. Red lights flashed, casting eerie shadows across everyone's face. Then a voice boomed, cold and mechanical. "Security breach detected. Initiating lockdown." "What?" Panic surged through Jonathan. "We need to get out of here." He turned to Mia, who still clung to the device, eyes wide with fear. He reached for her, desperation steering his movements. The room felt like it was shrinking. "Daddy, I don't like this," she cried, shaking visibly. "Stay close," he shouted, his voice thick with emotion. Max smirked, watching the chaos unfold. "You really thought you could escape who you are? The game's just begun. Your world is collapsing, Jonathan." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind them. A door burst open, and figures in tactical gear stormed in. They moved with military precision, weapons drawn, faces masked. The atmosphere thickened with dread, the tension rising to a boiling point. "Get down," Jonathan yelled, pushing Mia to the floor as bullets flew, shattering the walls and screens around them. The room erupted in chaos. Smoke filled the air. The light flickered awkwardly. "Which side are you on, Jonathan?" shouted the copy. Its voice weaving through the confusion. "This isn't just a game. They've set you up to fail." "Who?" Jonathan shouted back, filled with panic and rage. "Who are they?" But before he could get an answer, another explosion rocked the room. This time, the whole wall crumbled, and Jonathan ducked, shielding Mia from the debris raining down. His heart pounded as he gasped for air, eyes darting to his father, who was still standing, frozen. Then it hit him, like a lightning bolt of realization. You brought them here." Jonathan's voice rose into a dangerous growl, shock mixing with betrayal. But before his father could respond, the masked figures advanced. Through the chaos, Jonathan caught a glimpse of his mother, standing at the edge of the smoke, eyes wild. "Jonathan, listen," she pleaded, voice barely audible above the explosions. "Why?" he shouted, fury boiling. "What did you do?" "Everything," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I was trying to protect you, to save you from the consequences of your legacy." The copy of Jonathan chuckled darkly. Protect him? All she did was bury him in a new game. In that moment, something shifted inside Jonathan. An understanding. The lies, the darkness, the layers of manipulation, they all coalesced. An instinct whispered that he'd been the pawn all along, unaware of the true power orchestrating everything. "Mia," he pulled her close, "we have to make a choice now." From behind his mother, another figure stumbled into view. A woman, disheveled and frantic, but undeniably familiar. It was Clara, holding a bloody bandage over her arm. "Jonathan," she shouted, her voice hoarse. "It's worse than you know. They're not just after you." The crowd's murmurs turned into gasps. "Who is she?" someone asked, eyes wide with confusion and fear. And then Clara pointed a shaking finger at Jonathan's mother. "They're after your mother, Jonathan, and she's the reason why Mia's here." Time slowed. Jonathan felt the world close in. What do you mean? He whispered, the breath freezing in his lungs. Your mother. She's the real enemy. Clara's words hung in the air, heavy with revelation. She has ties to them, and it goes deeper than blood. You're not just tied to her legacy. She's tied to a pact that endangers us all. The walls started closing in as Jonathan sifted through this new reality. Every piece of the puzzle fell into place, and the roots of his life unraveled like a tangled knot. Betrayal, trust, love. Why should I believe you? He cried, the rawness of emotion spilling forth. Because we're all running from the same darkness, Clara said, voice firm but shaking. You have to decide who you're fighting for, Jonathan. Before he could respond, another explosion rippled through the room. The lights dimmed, and a figure appeared amidst the smoke, cloaked in shadows, a figure older, grizzled, a face he never expected to see. It was his grandfather, and as he stepped forward, hard lines etched on his face. Jonathan's pulse quickened. Jonathan, he said, voice gravelly, it's time for you to know the truth. Everything must come to light. A wave of doubts crashed through Jonathan's mind. The stakes had never been higher. Who was friend? Who was foe? And as his heart raced with uncertainty, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a revelation that would change everything. As the walls trembled and chaos reigned, Jonathan felt the weight of his family's legacy crushing down on him. The unmasked figure of his grandfather commanded the room, a storm of emotion surging within him. Jonathan, listen carefully, his grandfather said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Your mother is in deeper than you know. There's a reason why they're after her, and why you've been part of this twisted game all along. Mia's small hand shook in his grip, fear radiating from her. Daddy, what do we do? Stay close, he whispered, determination flooding through him. Jonathan turned to Clara, who stood defiantly, blood trickling from her arm. And you, what do you know? The pact, it threatened everything. She used you to manipulate the rest of us, Clara replied, eyes fierce, even as she faltered. We didn't know the depths of her betrayal until now. Suddenly the door splintered open again, and more masked figures surged in, guns raised, chaos intensifying. The air buzzed with tension. Jonathan's heart raced. We can't stay here. Follow me, his father shouted, grabbing Mia's other hand. Jonathan's head spun as fear gripped him. What's the plan? We'll be trapped. Just trust me, his dad urged, pulling them toward a narrow hallway branching from the chaos. The lights flickered with each thunderous footstep around them. Time seemed to stretch. Shadows danced ominously against the walls as they barreled down the hall. But behind them, a loud thud resonated. A figure was close, relentlessly tracking them. Move faster, Jonathan pushed, the desperation rocketing in his chest like a wild animal. They rushed through an emergency exit, tumbling out into a narrow alley where the air was cold, prickling against Jonathan's skin. Hard breaths filled the silence, the wail of sirens slipping through the night sky overhead. Where now? Mia whispered, fear glinting in her big eyes. Someplace safe, Jonathan breathed, glancing at his parents and Clara, urgency flashing in their eyes. We need to figure out what's really going on before it's too late. Just as they regrouped, flashes of light illuminated the darkness from the alley's entrance, revealing the thrumming chaos of a city in turmoil. Jonathan turned, facing the street, where shadows loomed, menacing figures edging closer. We need to split up, he insisted, voice firm. It's the only way to draw them off, but stay in touch with the devices. But, Dad, Mia's eyes widened, panic creeping in. It'll be okay, baby, he reassured her, kneeling to meet her gaze. I want you safe. I promise we'll get through this together. The resolve in Jonathan's chest flared. He turned to Clara. You know enough about Mom to help expose the truth. We need to gather everything. We can, she nodded, determination reigniting in her gaze, even as her injury bled. Let's go, Jonathan declared. He ushered them towards the bustling streets, adrenaline surging through him. He could see in their eyes a shared fury, a collective desperation to reclaim their lives. As they darted into the crowd, Jonathan's heart thundered like a war drum, but he felt a flicker of hope. He wasn't just running away from the past. Together, they were piecing together the truth for a chance at a future. As they fled into the heart of the city, adrenaline and fear mingled into an invincible force propelling them forward. They were more than pawns. They were survivors, ready to strike back. But in the whispering winds of the night, Jonathan realized this fight was far from over. The journey ahead would be tough, fraught with uncertainty. But together, they would break free from the invisible chains holding them hostage, and he'd face whatever came next. For Mia, for his family, and perhaps for the chance to forge a new legacy. This is it. If you want to follow Jonathan's explosive journey and uncover more stories, you have to subscribe right now. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help us grow, and flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this wild conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.